KCC311, second video for week number 8. We need to make area graphs from our data set, from our quantitative data set. It involves importing some data, creating classes or groups for the data, and then we need to make the graph and label it appropriately. So last video I was talking about taxi ride data. You're doing divvy rides for the assignment for week number 8. I'll do it on taxi rides. And you'll see my quantitative data is the trip duration. Now, I have this link, this file, it's an area graph template, and it is linked for you in Blackboard. However, you're only able to view it, you're not able to edit it. So what you're going to need to do in order to actually complete this assignment, you're going to have to go up to File, and you go down here, and it says Make a Copy right there. And you can make a copy, you can name it anything you want, so I'll call it WJ week number 8, and I'll say OK. And this copy now you can edit, you can type in any numbers you please. And you can also, or well, I'm just typing in some different words, but you get the idea. You can edit this, and you can also export it to Microsoft Excel if that's easier for you to use. So I'm going to use this copy of the template to solve this, and you'll be making one also for yourself for week 8 assignment. All right, back to the data. I've got my quantitative data, the trip duration for the taxi rides. I'm going to copy that. So Control-C in Google Sheets, and you see that little dotted line there, that means I've copied all the quantitative data. Now I go over here to week number 8, and see these yellow squares are the only ones you need to paste in. So I'm going to go up to the top, and I Control-V will paste the data. It's a big data set, 5,000 taxi rides, so it'll take a second, but boom, there you go. I have the data for 5,000 taxi rides. You're going to copy and paste the data for your divvy rides. Probably not going to have 5,000, but you don't want to have 10 divvy rides. That's too small of a sample size. You'll find one, you'll find your data set, and you'll copy it in here. And you'll notice that this frequency still says 0. What's going on here? I can't make a graph with 0. Well, these groups, that's the critical part to making an area graph. You need to tell me, how should I group this data? Well, I'm always going to start at 0 because you can't ride a taxi for less than 0 seconds. That doesn't make any sense. What's next? Well, how do I want to group the data? Maybe let's group it by 100. So in other words, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say how many people took a taxi between 0 and 100 seconds. I hit enter, and it says 194 people did that. How come that number popped right in there? Well, if you click here, there's this elaborate formula. Well, if you want to know the nuts and bolts of it, let's talk about that offline. That's not something that we're going to go through in this class. But guess what? Now that you have one group, you got to keep going with it. 200 would be the next group. And you see it pops in, 313. You get the idea. And I just keep going, and the formula does its work. Now, you could type that all the way down, or highlight this pattern, click that box in the corner, and I pull it all the way down. Ta-da. And it says from 0 up to 2,400 seconds, which is, if you do the math, that's about a 40-minute taxi ride. It'll show you how many people took that many taxi rides. We can make a graph now. Last step. Well, the first step, importing the data. So copy that from divvy, or I'm sorry, my taxi ride, and I pasted it here. You'll copy and paste to divvy. Create the groups. That's step 2. And last step, let's highlight these frequency numbers. I highlight just the frequency numbers, not the groups, just the highlight. I go up to Insert and go down here to Chart. It takes a second, and ta-da, Google Sheets spits out this histogram. It's saying, hey, you want a histogram? I'm saying, no, I want an area chart. So you go down here, and then they have all these different area charts. So I click the first one. And there we go. It shows the ups and downs of how taxi rides work. It says most people are taking these shorter rides, and fewer people are taking these longer rides. Well, wait a minute. I need some numbers. How long are these rides? X-axis. The X-axis should tell me how long the rides are. So you click that little tic-tac-toe. It says what range. That was these groups that I had right here. So I pick them. I hit OK. And ta-da, underneath it says 500 seconds. So 500 seconds, that's about 8-minute taxi ride. That's the most frequent. Look down here, 1,500 seconds. Okay, that's about 24 minutes. That's much less frequent. All right, this graph is showing me. An area chart is showing me, relatively speaking, more people take these taxi rides, less people take this taxi ride. You will do something similar for your divvy data. And by the way, everything that I did right here in terms of the import data, create the groups, and go to Insert, Chart, and create the area chart, it's virtually exactly the same in Excel. If you have specific questions, feel free to reach out via email, and I'll help walk you through that process. But this area chart, make sure you have the labels. That's the centerpiece for your week number 8 assignment. Any questions? Please reach out via email.